So this build is going to be the build that I primarily use when doing Cascade, and it's not a typical one. The most common ones you see are like Ash, but this one is going to be using Hildren. And the main point of that is the augment for pillage, blazing pillage, which makes pillage a really good DPS ability. For a helminth, we're using electric elemental ward because the way that electric elemental ward works is when you take damage, a percentage of that is reflected as electricity damage. But because Hildren uses shields to cast her abilities, casting your abilities also does reflection damage. And because we're just going to be spamming 2, we're dealing really high damage heat and electricity procs every time you press it. And because pillage also gives your shield gate back, you're just basically invincible unless you're facing something that turns your abilities off. For the build, this is it. As you can see, don't have Aegis maxed, but you don't need it. The main thing here is Blazing Pillage and a lot of strength. And the reason for that is because you don't need to, I want to have Pillage strip in one cast. With the strength we have with Augmented and Matter Eye and Corrosive Projection, lowering the threshold more, we can pretty easily armor strip with one cast, but you don't need to because you're going to be spamming this ability. You don't need the one cast, but also more strength does mean more damage. The gun that we're going to be using to kill things is the Fellarks. I really like the Fellarks. You can just use whatever gun you want. I just like using the Fellarks, especially because this build is really weird because I'm using both Prime Tactical Pump and Primed Ammo Stock, and this is more of like a funny thing for fire rate using this perk. These mods basically just are both quality of life and fire rate, so it's nice. I like it, but again, you can just use whatever good primary you want. Secondary, I would very much recommend bringing a primer. This is my new core build. I have a Riven here, but you don't need it, especially because this is for damage, not priming. The base element I have on this, I think, is radiation. Yeah, no, it's heat. Yeah, it's heat. But if you want to get maximum priming, you could go for like something else like magnetic or impact if you really want to. However, I will say, do not put cold on any of your primers for doing Cascade, because cold procs on the Thrax are so annoying because it slows down the little dying animation after you kill their physical body. It's really annoying. If you're going to be running a companion, say Nautilus with Hellstrom, make sure you don't have cold on whatever primer that has. I'm just going to be using Panzer because it's really good and I don't need to think. And I don't really need grouping. The melee for this, I'm using Prismascana just because I like it. It's okay. This is just a melee influence. I'm just hitting guys with a sword. But most of the damage is going to be coming from Blazing Pillage, but it's nice to just kill guys with a sword if you want. And like I said earlier, we're using Matter Eye. And the way this build works is you press 3, you make sure your 4 is up, and you just spam the fuck out of Pillage. And when we're doing Cascade, you want to prime the enemy, you want to prime the Thrax with your primer of choice, make sure it doesn't have cold, before you kill it. And I'll also go over the operator loadout for this too. It's a 177 amp using Onslaught and Eradicate. 177, the parts for the 177, if you don't know what that is, I will put on screen now. But basically, you press your 2 with Matter Eye to make them take more damage, and that activates an operator ability for more damage. And Onslaught, this is just like the loadout you should use no matter what when with your operator. Onslaught and Eradicate in either a 777 or a 177, depending on preference. Both are fine. 177 is technically slightly better for Eidolons, but it doesn't matter unless you're like one of the speedrunning Sweatlords. You could basically just use whatever you prefer, but this is what I'm running. If you like these builds and you want to see more, then maybe consider fixing this graph. But now it's time for the gameplay.